The massive council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a structure so large it could be seen from 3 star systems away. Inside, representatives from 47 different species gathered in a circular arrangement, each seated according to their world's position in the galactic arm. The air hummed with translation devices, turning clicks, whistles, and rumbles into understandable speech for all present. Ambassador Telrix of the Vrelnathi Empire stood at the central podium, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of welcome. His scaled skin shimmered under the artificial lights as he addressed the assembly, with a voice that carried both authority and barely concealed condescension. "Today marks another joyous occasion," Telrix announced, his translator rendering his words into dozens of languages simultaneously. "We welcome a new species into our galactic family. The humans of Earth have finally developed the capability to reach beyond their atmosphere in a meaningful way. Their representative is here to formally petition for provisional membership in the Galactic Council." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates expressed curiosity, others indifference. The humans were known to most as a young race, barely worth noticing. Their spacecraft were primitive chemical rockets. Their largest vessel was a small station orbiting their home world. According to every scan and observation conducted over the past 30 years, humans were at least 2 centuries away from developing faster-than-light travel on their own. Director Chen Wei walked calmly to the podium as Ambassador Telrix stepped aside. She was a woman in her mid-50s, her black hair streaked with gray, her dark eyes sharp and observant. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations or medals. Everything about her appearance suggested humility and deference. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Chen began, her voice steady and clear. "Earth is grateful for this opportunity to join the galactic community. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." "A noble sentiment," replied Ambassador Quellis of the Quellan Communion, his gelatinous form rippling with approval. "Tell us, Director Chen, what does Earth bring to this council? What unique perspective or capability can your species offer?" Chen smiled slightly. "Before I answer that question, I believe there is something the council should see. With your permission, I would like to transmit a set of coordinates to the observation array." The council's head administrator, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure, processed the request. "Very well. The coordinates have been received. Activating deep space sensors now." Holographic displays materialized above, each delegate's station showing the vast emptiness of space in various regions around Earth's solar system. The images showed nothing unusual at first, just the expected debris fields, asteroids, and distant planetary bodies. "I see nothing but empty space," Telrix said with obvious irritation. "Is this some kind of joke?" "Not at all," Chen replied calmly. "Computer, disengage stealth protocols. Authorization Chen Alpha 779. What happened next would be discussed in council chambers for generations to come." The empty regions of space suddenly blazed with light as hundreds of vessels materialized. Sleek warships appeared in formation around Earth's moon. Massive carriers emerged from positions near Mars, cruisers and destroyers uncloaked in the asteroid belt. Mining stations became visible on several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Fortified bases revealed themselves on Titan, Europa, and Ganymede. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in alarm, confusion, and anger. Security protocols activated automatically, and defensive shields hummed to life around the station. The holographic displays showed energy signatures that rivaled those of some of the council's most advanced military powers. "Order!" The crystalline administrator's voice boomed, silencing the commotion. "Director Chen, you will explain this immediately." Chen remained perfectly composed at the podium, her hands folded behind her back. "What you are seeing is Earth's actual military and industrial capacity. For the past 32 years, humanity has been constructing and operating a cloaked fleet. We have 378 combat vessels, 12 carrier platforms, 47 mining and manufacturing stations, and defensive installations on 8 celestial bodies within our home system." Ambassador Telrix's scales flushed a dark crimson, a sign of rage among his species. "This is an outrage. You have deceived this council, You have hidden your true strength while pretending to be a primitive species. We never claimed to be primitive, Chen corrected gently. The Council made that assumption based on observations of our unclassified operations. We simply chose not to correct those assumptions until we understood the nature of the galaxy we were entering. A delegate from the Morphean Collective, HE, species resembling a cluster of floating tentacles, spoke up with curiosity rather than anger. But why? Why go to such extraordinary lengths to hide your capabilities? The resources required for such an endeavor must have been staggering. Chen nodded. They were. This project required every nation on Earth to cooperate. We pooled our resources, shared our technology, and worked in complete secrecy. The reason is simple. We studied history. She activated her own display, showing data streams and historical records. Your council has inducted 73 new species in the past 500 years. We obtained records of 41 of those first contact scenarios through various means. In 27 cases, the new species entered negotiations from a position of weakness. Of those 27, 16 were immediately exploited, forced into unfavorable trade agreements, or had their resources claimed by more powerful members. 7 more were subjected to military occupation within their first decade of membership, justified under various pretexts. The council chamber had grown quiet, with many delegates shifting uncomfortably. Chen continued, her voice growing firmer. Humanity learned long ago that wolves respect other predators, not prey. We have spent our entire history fighting wars among ourselves. We know what happens to the weak when they encounter the strong. We chose to ensure that when we met you, we would meet as equals, not as supplicants begging for scraps. Ambassador Quellis rippled with what the translator interpreted as distress. But the principle of open contact, of honest negotiation, was violated the moment your species sent military reconnaissance ships disguised as scientific surveys. Chen interrupted, her tone sharp. She brought up new data on the displays. 3 years ago, a Quellan vessel conducting a supposed biological survey of Earth's oceans carried weapon systems and stealth recording equipment. 2 years ago, a Vrelnati merchant ship that claimed engine trouble while passing through our system spent 6 days mapping our defensive satellites and communication networks. She turned slowly, making eye contact with delegates around the chamber. 7 different council species have sent covert intelligence-gathering missions to Earth. You were evaluating us as a potential threat or resource, so do not speak to me of honesty and open negotiation when you were preparing to exploit or neutralize us from the beginning. The silence that followed was profound. Chen had just accused multiple council members of espionage and hostile intent, and she had the evidence to support every claim. The careful diplomatic dance that usually characterized council proceedings had been shattered. Finally, the crystalline administrator spoke again, its voice measured and grave. This session is adjourned. The council will reconvene in 6 hours to address these revelations and decide on an appropriate response. Director Chen, you and your vessel are confined to this station until further notice. Chen bowed slightly. As you wish. Earth's fleet will remain in defensive positions within our home system. We have no hostile intentions toward any council member, but we will not disarm, and we will not be intimidated. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, many casting hostile or fearful glances at the human representative, Chen stood alone at the podium. Her expression remained calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she finally allowed herself to feel the weight of what had just occurred. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy not as children seeking guidance, but as adults demanding respect. The question now was whether the galaxy would accept Earth's terms, or whether humanity had just started a war they might not be able to win. The 6 hours passed like 6 days. Director Chen remained in the diplomatic quarters assigned to her, a comfortable suite designed to accommodate various biological life forms. She spent the time reviewing messages from Earth, where the revelation had been broadcast live to every nation. The response from her homeworld was mixed. Some praised her boldness, others feared she had provoked a conflict humanity could not win. President Okafor sent a simple message. We stand behind you. Do not back down. When the council reconvened, the atmosphere in the chamber was drastically different. Gone was the ceremonial politeness that had characterized the first session. Security drones floated near the ceiling, their weapons ports visible and active. Several delegations had brought additional military advisors. The air crackled with tension. Ambassador Telrix took the podium first, his forearms gesturing aggressively. The Vrelnathi Empire demands immediate action. Earth has demonstrated that it is a deceptive, militaristic species that cannot be trusted. We propose the following. Earth must dismantle its hidden fleet within 90 days. All military vessels must be decommissioned, and their technology surrendered to Council oversight. Earth will accept permanent monitoring stations in orbit around their planet. Failure to comply will result in sanctions and, if necessary, enforcement action. The threat was clear. Enforcement action meant military intervention. Several delegates murmured in agreement, particularly those from species that prided themselves on martial strength. The idea that a newcomer species had hidden such power was deeply unsettling to the established order. Chen stood to respond, but Ambassador Quellis raised one of his gelatinous appendages, requesting to speak first. The Quellan representative's form seemed to pulse with agitation. The Quellan communion is deeply troubled, Director Chen. Quellis began, his voice carrying notes of genuine hurt. We have always operated on principles of transparency and mutual trust. Your revelation has shaken the very foundation of how we conduct first contact. If you can hide an entire fleet, what else might you be concealing? How can we trust anything you say? More delegates voiced their agreement. The Morphean Collective representative spoke of violations of galactic norms. The Hexarian Trade Union worried about what hidden weapons or technologies Earth might possess. A small delegation from the Pilthian Federation, a species that had been exploited during their own first contact centuries ago, watched quietly but with understanding in their large eyes. Chen waited for the voices to die down before she spoke. Her tone was respectful but firm. I understand your concerns, but let me address the accusation of bad faith. At no point during preliminary contacts did Earth sign any agreement requiring us to reveal our full military capacity. At no point did we claim to be defenseless. The Council made assumptions and we chose not to correct them. That is not deception. That is strategy. Strategy? Telrix snarled. You speak as if we are enemies to be outmaneuvered rather than potential allies to be trusted. Are you our allies? Chen asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a blade. Because allies do not send spy ships. Allies do not conduct covert surveillance. Allies do not evaluate each other as potential resources to be exploited. She activated her display again, showing more evidence. The Vrelnathi Empire has a documented history of demanding military basing rights on newly inducted worlds. The Quellan Communion, for all its talk of peace, has economic treaties with 15 species that are so one-sided, they amount to resource extraction without compensation. The Hexarian Trade Union controls shipping routes through systems that do not belong to them, charging fees that cripple local economies. Each accusation was backed by data, by trade records, by testimony from affected species. Chen had done her research thoroughly. She was not just defending Earth's actions, she was putting the Council itself on trial. We studied your history, Chen continued. We saw patterns. We saw how power operates in this galaxy. And we decided that humanity would not become another species that is granted membership only to find ourselves stripped of autonomy and dignity. We came to the stars prepared, not paranoid. A new voice entered the debate. It came from Ambassador Krell, a representative of the small but respected Dalthonian Accord. The Dalthonians were an ancient species, one of the Council's founding members, known for their wisdom and neutrality. Director Chen makes valid points, Krell said slowly, his deep voice resonating through the translation systems. The Council has at times taken advantage of less developed species. It is uncomfortable to acknowledge, but it is true. However, there is another concern that must be addressed. If Earth felt it necessary to hide its strength, what does that say about us? What have we become if a new species looks at us and sees threats rather than friends? The question created a ripple of uncomfortable silence. Some delegates looked ashamed, others defensive. The crystalline administrator let the moment stretch before speaking. Ambassador Krell raises a profound question, but we cannot address our failings without also addressing Earth's approach. Director Chen, your species has admitted to decades of systematic deception. You have built weapons of war while we believed you were focused on peaceful exploration. How can the Council feel secure with such a militarized newcomer in our midst? Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment she had prepared for, the question she knew would come. You want security? Then understand this. Earth's fleet was not built to threaten you. It was built to ensure that no one could threaten us. Every human ship is positioned defensively within our home system. We have made no moves toward any council member's territory. We have not threatened trade routes or borders. Our weapons have never been aimed at any of you. But they could be, Telrix interjected. That is the problem. You have the capability to wage war. So do you, Chen shot back. Every species in this chamber has military forces. Some of you have fleets that dwarf ours. The Vrilnathi Empire alone has over 3,000 warships. Are we to believe those are all for defensive purposes, or is it only acceptable for established members to have military power? The Vrilnathi ambassador's scales flushed again, but he had no ready answer. Chen pressed her advantage. Here's the truth that makes you uncomfortable. Earth refuses to be weak. We refuse to enter this galactic community as beggars hoping for mercy. We have earned our place through our own efforts, our own ingenuity, our own sacrifice. And yes, we prepared for the possibility that some of you might not welcome us as equals. If that makes us untrustworthy in your eyes, then perhaps you should examine what that says about your own intentions. Ambassador Quellis rippled with visible distress. This is not the foundation for a peaceful relationship. Trust cannot be built on suspicion and hidden daggers. Trust is earned, not demanded, Chen replied. Earth is willing to earn your trust through our actions. We will be transparent about our capabilities going forward. We will participate in joint operations and exchange scientific knowledge. But we will not disarm. We will not make ourselves vulnerable to appease your discomfort. Give us time to prove ourselves or reject us now. Those are the only two options we will accept. The session devolved into heated arguments among the delegates themselves. Some species sided with the Vrilnathi position, demanding Earth's fleet be neutralized. Others, particularly smaller or formerly exploited species, saw humanity's approach as a template they wished they had followed. The Pilthian Federation representative stood and publicly thanked Earth for having the courage to refuse victimhood. As the debates raged, Chen remained standing at the podium, appearing calm despite the storm swirling around her. She had thrown the council into chaos, but it was necessary chaos. Earth would not compromise on this. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to be dictated to by species who had already proven themselves capable of exploitation. The administrator finally called for order. This matter requires deeper deliberation. The Council will establish a special tribunal to investigate Earth's actions and determine appropriate responses. Director Chen, you will be expected to provide full testimony. This session is adjourned. As the delegates departed, many shooting hostile glares at the human representative, Chen felt the weight of her situation fully. She had defended Earth's position, but in doing so, she had made enemies. The next phase would determine whether humanity's gambit had been brilliant strategy or catastrophic miscalculation. The special tribunal convened 3 days later in a smaller chamber designed for formal inquiries. The room was circular, with the judges seated on an elevated platform. 7 senior council members had been selected to hear testimony and make recommendations. Ambassador Krell of the Dalthonian Accord served as lead arbiter, his ancient eyes missing nothing. Director Chen entered the chamber accompanied by a new figure. Admiral Marcus Stone walked beside her, his military bearing evident in every step. He was a tall man in his early 60s, his hair gray but his body still powerful and fit. His uniform was dark blue with minimal insignia, and his weathered face showed the lines of someone who had carried enormous responsibility for many years. The tribunal began with formal questions about the timeline of Earth's hidden fleet construction. Chen provided detailed answers, explaining how the project had begun shortly after humanity's first detection of alien signals. The realization that they were not alone in the universe had been both exhilarating and terrifying. We spent 2 years just debating our approach, Chen explained. Some nations wanted to announce ourselves immediately, to reach out in friendship. Others urged caution. In the end, caution won because we intercepted enough communications to understand that the galaxy was not the peaceful utopia we had hoped for. Ambassador Quellis leaned forward, his gelatinous form rippling. You speak of caution, but you built weapons of war. That is not caution, that is militarism. Admiral Stone spoke for the first time, his voice deep and measured. With respect, Ambassador, you are wrong. Caution is exactly what it was. I was chosen to command this project because I had experience in strategic planning. My first task was to study every first contact scenario in recorded galactic history that we could access. He activated a display showing statistical analysis. We found records of 109 first contact scenarios spanning the last 2,000 years. Of those, 67 resulted in favorable outcomes for both species involved. 42 resulted in exploitation, subjugation, or conflict. Those are not good odds when the survival of your entire species is at stake. The tribunal judges examined the data carefully. Ambassador Krell spoke thoughtfully. These statistics are concerning, though I suspect there is selection bias in which records survived and were accessible to you. Nevertheless, your concern is understandable. But understanding your motivation does not excuse your methods. Why such extensive militarization? Stone stood straighter, his hands clasped behind his back in a military stance. Because history taught us that the weak do not get to choose their fate. Every time a technologically inferior species encountered a superior one, the outcome was determined by the stronger party's intentions. We decided that humanity would never be in that position. We would meet you as equals, or we would not meet you at all. A judge from the Hexarian Trade Union, a being with crystalline wings, spoke with obvious skepticism. But you must have known that eventually your deception would be revealed. What did you hope to accomplish? Chen answered this time. Time. We needed time to build our capabilities, to study you, to understand the galactic power structure. If we had revealed ourselves immediately, some among you would have seen us as a threat to be neutralized or a resource to be claimed. By the time we revealed our fleet, it was large enough to make military action against us costly. We forced you to negotiate rather than dictate. That is a very cynical view of this council, a Quellan judge said with evident hurt in his translated voice. Is it? Stone challenged. Director Chen has already presented evidence of covert intelligence operations conducted against Earth. Should we have simply ignored that? Should we have trusted species who were spying on us while speaking words of friendship? The judges had no immediate response. The evidence of surveillance was undeniable and embarrassing to several council members. Krell broke the uncomfortable silence. Admiral Stone, help us understand something. The resources required to build and maintain a fleet of this size must have been enormous. How did humanity accomplish this while appearing to be a barely spacefaring species? Stone allowed himself a slight smile. Through sacrifice and unity. For 32 years, every nation on Earth contributed. We diverted resources from other projects. We made difficult choices about where to invest our limited wealth. Most importantly, we did something that humanity had rarely done in its history. We worked together toward a common goal without conflict. He paused, and his expression grew more serious. You have to understand what this project meant for us. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. We killed each other over resources, ideology, territory, religion. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. But when we discovered we were not alone in the universe, something changed. We finally had a challenge that required all of humanity to unite, Chen added quietly. The Hidden Fleet program gave us purpose. It forced us to see beyond our petty differences and recognize that we were all humans first, citizens of individual nations second. In that sense, you gave us a gift even before we met you. You gave us a reason to become better than we were. One of the judges, a small being from the Pilthian Federation, spoke for the first time. Her voice was gentle but clear. I understand what you are saying because my people learned similar lessons. We trusted the Council during first contact. We were honest about our limitations. Within 10 years, our mineral rights had been sold to corporations we had no power to regulate, and our young people were leaving our world because they could find no opportunity at home. It took us a century to recover our independence. I wish we had been as wise as you. Several judges shifted uncomfortably at this testimony. It was clear that not everyone on the tribunal viewed Earth's actions as completely unjustified. Ambassador Krell returned to questioning. Let us address the broader issue. Admiral Stone, what are Earth's intentions now? You have revealed your fleet. What do you want from this council? Stone's answer was direct and unhesitating. Respect. Fair treatment. The same rights and considerations given to any other member species. We do not want territory beyond our home system. We do not want to dominate trade routes or demand tribute. We want to be left alone to develop at our own pace, to trade fairly with those who wish to trade with us, and to contribute to galactic security as partners, not subordinates. And if the Council decides that Earth's military presence is unacceptable, the Hexarian judge asked. What then? The question hung in the air like a blade. Everyone in the chamber understood what was really being asked. Would Earth fight if threatened? Stone met the judge's eyes steadily. Then Earth will defend itself. We did not build this fleet as a bluff. Every ship, every weapon, every station is fully operational and crewed by trained personnel. We hope it never comes to conflict. War would be catastrophic for all involved, but we will not surrender our ability to defend ourselves under any circumstances. Chen added, We are offering the Council a choice. Accept us as equals and partners and we will prove ourselves worthy of that acceptance through our actions. Work with us in good faith and we will reciprocate, but attempt to intimidate or coerce us, and you will find that humanity does not bend to threats. A different judge, one who had been silent until now, spoke in a grinding mechanical voice. Some might call your position arrogant. You are one species among thousands. Your fleet, while impressive for your age, is not large enough to threaten the combined might of the Council. Admiral Stone nodded. You are correct. If the entire Council united against Earth, we would eventually lose. But the cost would be substantial. Our doctrine is based on asymmetric warfare. We would not fight the kind of large fleet actions you are accustomed to. We would strike supply lines, use guerrilla tactics, make every system we contest a grinding nightmare. We have spent decades studying your military histories, your tactics, your weaknesses. Yes, you would win eventually, but you would bleed for it. He let that sink in before continuing. But why would you choose that path? We are not your enemies. We have not threatened anyone. We simply refuse to be victims. Is that really worth a war? The tribunal session continued for hours, covering every aspect of Earth's program. Stone described the fleet's composition, its defensive capabilities, and its limitations. He was surprisingly transparent about what humanity could and could not do militarily. The message was clear. Earth was strong enough to defend itself, but not strong enough to threaten the Council's major powers. They occupied a careful middle ground. As the session drew to a close, Ambassador Krell addressed both Chen and Stone directly. You have given this tribunal much to consider. Your candor is appreciated, even if your methods remain controversial. The tribunal will deliberate and present recommendations to the full Council within 1 week. You may return to your quarters. As they left the chamber, Chen and Stone walked in silence for a long time. Finally, Stone spoke quietly. Do you think we convinced them? Chen shook her head slowly. I do not know. But we told them the truth. Earth will not be anyone's puppet or victim. Whatever they decide, at least we made that clear. What neither of them knew was that their testimony had been broadcast throughout Council space. The tribunal had been deliberating for 3 days when the universe decided to interrupt with its own agenda. It began with a silence that was more terrifying than any alarm. Communication relays along the galactic rim simply stopped transmitting. 3 colony worlds of the Quellan Communion went dark within the span of an hour. Automated distress beacons activated and then cut off mid-signal. The Council's emergency response protocols engaged immediately. But by the time scout ships reached the affected systems, they found only devastation. The Council chamber filled within minutes of the first confirmed reports. Delegates arrived in various states of dress and preparedness, the formality of proper protocol abandoned in the face of crisis. Holographic displays showed fragmentary data from the dead worlds, cities reduced to rubble, orbital facilities torn apart, and most disturbing of all, no survivors. Director Chen and Admiral Stone were summoned from their quarters. As they entered the chamber, they could see the panic on faces both familiar and alien. Ambassador Quellis was in visible distress, his gelatinous form pulsing erratically. The attacks had targeted his people. The crystalline administrator's voice cut through the chaos. Attention. We have confirmed reports of hostile action against Council territory. The attacking force has been identified as the Korthak Swarm. A murmur of fear rippled through the chamber. Chen noticed that even the most militant delegates looked shaken. She leaned toward Stone and whispered, What is the Korthak Swarm? Stone had already pulled up classified files on his personal display. His face went pale as he read. Trouble. Serious trouble. They are a hive mind species from beyond charted space. The Council has been monitoring them for decades but considered them contained to their home region. According to these files, they operate with perfect coordination, no individual will, just collective purpose. Previous encounters suggest they assimilate organic matter to grow their numbers. As if to confirm Stone's assessment, new data flooded into the Council's systems. A Vrelnathi military outpost had detected a massive fleet entering Council space. The numbers were staggering. Thousands of biomechanical ships, each one grown rather than built, all moving with synchronized precision. Ambassador Telrix took the podium, his earlier aggression replaced by genuine fear. The swarm is employing tactics we have never observed before. They are not following any predictable pattern. Our defensive fleets are being outmaneuvered. 2 more worlds have gone silent in the past hour. They are moving faster than we anticipated. A Hexarian admiral appeared on the holographic display, calling in from a command ship. They are using some kind of disruption field that interferes with our long-range sensors. By the time we detect them, they are already engaging. Our standard fleet formations are being torn apart. We need to establish a unified defensive line, but coordination between different species forces has been difficult. That last word was a diplomatic understatement. The Council's military forces came from dozens of different species, each with their own doctrines, communication protocols, and command structures. What had seemed like diversity in peaceful times was now revealing itself as a critical weakness. Stone watched the tactical displays with a professional eye. He could see the problem immediately. The Council's forces were individually powerful but collectively uncoordinated. They were reacting to the swarm's attacks rather than anticipating them. Ships arrived at defensive positions only to find the enemy had already moved on. Response times were measured in hours when they needed to be measured in minutes. Chen caught Stone's eye and saw the same thought reflected there. This was an opportunity, though one born of tragedy. She stood and requested permission to speak. The administrator acknowledged her. Director Chen, unless Earth has information relevant to the current crisis, this is not the time for... We can help, Chen interrupted, her voice carrying through the chamber with unexpected authority. Earth's fleet can assist in the defense against the swarm. The statement was met with stunned silence, followed by eruption of voices. Ambassador Telrix's scales flushed with anger even in the midst of crisis. This is not the time for political maneuvering. We do not need your primitive vessels getting in the way of actual military operations. Admiral Stone stepped forward, his tone sharp and professional. With respect, Ambassador, your actual military operations are failing. You have lost 5 worlds in the past 6 hours. Your response time is too slow, and your coordination is non-existent. You are fighting like 47 different militaries, not one unified force. And you can do better? The Hexarian admiral challenged from the display. You have never faced the swarm. You have never fought in a galactic-scale conflict. What makes you think you can help? Stone's answer was blunt. Because humans have been fighting wars for our entire history. We are very, very good at it. And more importantly, our entire fleet operates under a single unified command structure. Every ship follows the same tactical doctrine. We can make decisions and implement them in minutes, not hours. Chen added, we are offering our assistance freely, without conditions. Our fleet is not large enough to defeat the swarm alone, but we can provide rapid response capability, while your forces organize a more effective defense. Let us prove our worth when it actually matters. Ambassador Krell, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. The Council is in no position to refuse help regardless of its source. Director Chen, what exactly are you proposing? Stone brought up tactical displays showing Earth's fleet positions. We have 150 combat-ready vessels that can be mobilized within 3 hours. They are fast, heavily armed for their size, and crewed by personnel trained in rapid deployment scenarios. Give us coordinates for the most threatened systems, and we will engage the swarm forces there. We will buy you time to organize a proper defensive line. The Quellan ambassador rippled with emotion. 3 of the lost worlds were Quellan colonies. If there is any chance of saving lives, any chance at all. His voice trailed off, the desperation clear. The crystalline administrator processed for a moment, then made a decision. The Council accepts Earth's offer of assistance. Admiral Stone, you will coordinate with our military command. All available tactical data on the swarm is being transmitted to your vessel now. Be advised, the swarm has destroyed every force that has engaged them so far. Stone nodded grimly. Understood. We will do what we can. Director Chen will remain here to serve as liaison. I need to return to my flagship immediately. As Stone left the chamber at a run, Chen turned to address the assembled delegates. Earth did not reveal its fleet to intimidate you or seek dominance. We built it to protect ourselves. But protection means nothing if you only use it selfishly. Let us show you what humans can do when we fight for others. Within 2 hours, Earth's fleet was in motion. Admiral Stone commanded from the bridge of the EFS Defiant, a heavy cruiser that served as the flagship. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of all human vessels as they accelerated toward the first crisis point, the Cerulean system, where a swarm vanguard was approaching a colony of 2 million souls. The Quellan defense fleet in the system was vastly outnumbered and falling back in disarray. Their commander had already sent evacuation orders, but there was not enough time to save more than a fraction of the population. Stone studied the tactical situation carefully. The swarm vessels were converging on the colony world from multiple vectors, their movements coordinated with inhuman precision. The Quellan ships were trying to form a defensive line, but kept getting flanked and forced to withdraw. Standard tactics will not work here, Stone muttered to himself. Then louder, "All ships, this is Defiant Actual. We are not going to fight the swarm the way they expect. We are going to make them chase us." His tactical officer looked confused. "Sir," Stone smiled grimly. "Humans invented guerrilla warfare. Time to teach the galaxy what that means. Implement attack pattern Delta 7. All ships will engage in hit-and-run tactics. No one stays in one position for more than 30 seconds. We are going to turn their coordination into a weakness." The Earth fleet entered the Cerulean system at maximum velocity, their ships spreading out into a loose formation that seemed almost random to trained military observers, watching from Council Command. But there was method in the apparent chaos. Each human vessel knew exactly where every other ship was and what it was doing. The swarm detected the new arrivals and diverted forces to engage. But as their biomechanical ships moved to intercept, the human vessels darted away, firing precision strikes at vulnerable points before disengaging. The swarm pursued, their hive mind coordination ensuring they moved as one. That was exactly what Stone was counting on. "Now," he commanded, "execute trap sequence." 20 human ships that had appeared to be fleeing suddenly reversed course, catching the pursuing swarm vessels in a crossfire. At the same instant, another group of Earth ships struck the swarm's original formation from an unexpected angle. The hive mind tried to adjust, redirecting forces, but found that every time they moved to engage one threat, another appeared. For the first time since the invasion began, the swarm was reacting instead of acting. The Battle of Cerulean system raged for 18 hours, and it became the turning point that no one had anticipated. Admiral Stone's tactics forced the swarm to adapt continuously, breaking the smooth coordination that made them so devastating. Human ships moved like sharks through water, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond effectively. But the swarm learned. That was the terrifying thing that Stone observed as the battle progressed. The hive mind absorbed every tactic used against it, adapted and countered. What worked in the first hour became less effective in the second, and nearly useless by the third. "They are matching our response times," his tactical officer reported, strain evident in her voice. "Enemy vessels are anticipating our attack vectors." Stone knew they were in danger of losing the advantage. The swarm's numbers were overwhelming, and if they could not be kept off balance, they would eventually overrun even the nimblest defense. He needed something the swarm could not predict, something so foreign to their collective intelligence that they would struggle to counter it. "Open a channel to all human vessels," Stone commanded. Authorization code Stone Delta 9. Execute Operation Chaos. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. Stone ordered every ship captain to operate independently, to make their own tactical decisions without coordinating with the fleet. It was the opposite of standard military doctrine, the opposite of everything the swarm had learned to expect. Suddenly, the human fleet became 150 separate actors, each one unpredictable in its own way. Some captains chose aggressive frontal assaults, others preferred long-range harassment, still others focused on protecting evacuating civilian vessels. The swarm's hive mind, which excelled at predicting coordinated movements, found itself unable to process the sheer randomness of human individual initiative. Director Chen watched the battle unfold from the council chamber, where massive displays showed the tactical situation in real time. She held her breath as Earth's vessels danced through the chaos, each one a separate point of defiance against the swarm's collective will. Ambassador Quellis stood beside her, his gelatinous form tense with anxiety. "They are magnificent," he whispered, "and completely insane. No military force operates like that." "Humans do," Chen replied quietly. "We have always been too stubborn to follow the rules." By the 16th hour, the tide had clearly turned. The swarm forces in the Cerulean system were in disarray, unable to maintain their coordinated assault. The Quellan defense fleet, inspired by the human example and given time to regroup, rejoined the battle with renewed determination. But Stone was not satisfied with simply defending. He had studied the swarm's battle patterns and noticed something crucial. All their vessels in a given region operated from a central coordination nexus, a larger bioship that served as a local hub for the hive mind. If that nexus could be destroyed, the other vessels would lose coordination. Defiant to all vessels, Stone broadcast, "I have identified the enemy command node. I am going to destroy it. All ships do not follow me. Continue your current operations. This is a one-ship mission." Before anyone could protest, Stone's flagship accelerated toward the heart of the swarm formation. His crew watched in stunned silence as their admiral piloted them directly into the most heavily defended area of the battlefield. The swarm recognized the threat immediately. Dozens of bioships converged on the Defiant, their weapons tearing into the human vessel's shields. Damage reports flooded in from every section. The ship shuddered under sustained fire. "Sir, we cannot survive this assault," the tactical officer shouted over the alarms. "We do not need to survive," Stone said calmly. "We just need to get close enough. Engineering. Divert all power to forward shields and engines. Everything else goes offline, including life support." The bridge crew followed his orders without hesitation, understanding what their commander was truly ordering. This was a suicide run. But if they could take out that nexus, they would break the swarm's coordination across multiple systems. The Defiant plowed through enemy fire like a battering ram. Its armor melted under the assault. Sections of the ship explosively decompressed. Half the crew was dead or dying, but Stone kept the ship moving forward, his hands steady on the controls. 3,000 meters from the nexus. 2,000. 1,000. "All hands, this is the Admiral." Stone's voice echoed through what remained of the ship's communication system. "It has been an honor serving with you. Tell Earth what we did here today." At 500 meters, Stone armed every missile, every torpedo, every explosive device remaining on the ship. He set them all to detonate simultaneously. Then he locked the engines to maximum thrust and tied the controls open. The Defiant struck the swarm nexus at ramming speed, and the resulting explosion lit up the Cerulean system like a new sun. The nexus disintegrated, and with it, the coordinated control over every swarm vessel in the region. The bioships began moving erratically, their perfect synchronization broken. In the council chamber, displays showed the nexus destruction and the aftermath. For a moment, there was absolute silence as everyone processed what they had witnessed. Then Ambassador Quellis made a sound that the translator struggled to interpret, but that clearly conveyed grief and respect. "He destroyed it," Chen said quietly, tears streaming down her face. "Marcus destroyed it." But the tactical officer aboard one of the surviving human vessels was already implementing the next phase. "All Earth ships, the Admiral's sacrifice has given us our opening. Commence full assault. Make his death count for something." The remaining human fleet fell upon the disorganized swarm forces with savage efficiency. Without their nexus, the bioships could not coordinate defenses or plan effective counters. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to retreat. After 18 hours of battle, the swarm withdrew from the Cerulean system entirely. Council forces across multiple sectors reported similar effects. The destruction of one nexus had somehow disrupted the swarm's overall coordination network. Their invasion faltered, their advance stopped. Within 3 days, the swarm had retreated back beyond the galactic rim, leaving behind devastated worlds but no permanent occupation. 1 week later, the full council convened for an emergency session. The chamber was packed with representatives from every member species present. Director Chen stood at the podium, no longer a petitioner but an equal among equals. Ambassador Telrix rose to speak, his scales showing colors that indicated deep respect. "The Vrelnathi Empire wishes to formally withdraw all demands that Earth dismantle its fleet. Admiral Stone's sacrifice and the courage of all human forces during the swarm invasion have proven beyond doubt that humanity deserves full membership in this council. We offer a military alliance and request permission to name our newest battle carrier the Marcus Stone, in honor of your fallen admiral. Similar statements came from delegation after delegation. The Quellan Communion offered economic treaties with favorable terms. The Hexarian Trade Union granted humans access to key shipping routes. The Pilthian Federation proposed a mutual defense pact. Even the species that had been most hostile to Earth's initial revelation now spoke of friendship and partnership. Ambassador Krell stood last, his ancient voice carrying weight and wisdom. Earth came to us with hidden strength, and we reacted with suspicion and fear. But when the moment of truth arrived, humanity chose to fight not for themselves but for others. They showed us that strength without compassion is tyranny, but strength with compassion is nobility. The Council owes Earth a debt that cannot be easily repaid. Chen listened to it all with mixed emotions. They had won. Earth was now a full member of the galactic community, respected and valued. But the cost had been high. Admiral Stone was dead, along with hundreds of human crew members. The Defiant was gone. Victory felt hollow. When it was her turn to speak, Chen chose her words carefully. Earth accepts the Council's offer of full membership. We accept the alliances and partnerships being offered, but we do this with the understanding that respect must flow in all directions. We proved ourselves in battle, but we should never have needed to do so. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. The Council must change. New species cannot be expected to prove their worth through bloodshed. They cannot be exploited or intimidated. If Earth's experience teaches anything, it should be that trust and respect must be offered freely, not earned through sacrifice. Ambassador Quellis rippled in agreement. Director Chen speaks wisdom that shames us. The Council has operated for too long on assumptions of superiority and hierarchy. Perhaps it took humanity to show us that we had lost our way. In the days that followed, Earth's fleet returned home to a hero's welcome. Memorial services were held for Admiral Stone and all those who fell in the Battle of Cerulean System. Their names were inscribed on monuments, their deeds recorded in history, but the real legacy was more subtle. Across Council space, smaller and newer species watched what humanity had accomplished. They saw that it was possible to enter the galactic community on your own terms, to refuse victimhood, to demand respect rather than beg for it. The Council began implementing reforms, establishing protections for newly contacted species,